After struggling simply to survive just a century ago, the Syro Malabar Catholic Church, headquartered in Kerala, India, currently enjoys remarkable stability and growth. Ongoing estimates show that Syro Malabar Catholics have a 95% participation rate in Sunday Mass. What accounts for this vitality? Unlike the majority of Latin Catholics, the Syro Malabar Church has been able to retain its historical liturgical rites, which places a firm emphasis on sound catechesis and the importance of large families.
Although Christianity in recent years has been frequently billed as the white man's religion or European religion, most people are still well aware of its roots as a movement that of course do not originate on the continent of Europe, and although many of the practices, traditions, and philosophies associated with the faith have been heavily influenced by European culture, there were branches of early Christendom that stretched past the confines of what we would define as the Western world. There were early Christian groups in Ethiopia, who are still around in large numbers to this day, by the way, along with places as remote as Central Asia and the Far East. But today we're going to focus on the early Christian churches of South India, along with other groups around them, such as South Indian Hindus, Muslims, Jews, and Buddhists in the region that share a similarly interesting origin. It's important to separate fact from fiction and be objective on this subject, especially considering this period of mass politicization of history, and I will say that it did come as a huge surprise to me when I was a kid to learn that there were Christians in India, especially when I learned that the group was already well established nearly 1,000 years before such places as Sweden or Norway had adopted the faith. This group of Indian Christians has had their own variety of Christianity, which remained uninfluenced by major European powers for thousands of years before discovery by Western explorers. And what's interesting about this community, though, is that it seems to be pretty much as far away from the origin of the religious group as possible in the country of India, being located in the far south in the state of Kerala. So how on earth did this isolated group get there, seemingly without leaving any trace of their path from the Middle East? The Christian community of South India, known as St. Thomas Christians or Nasrani, were actually predated in the region by Cochin or Malabar Jews of South India, with the first Hebrew-speaking Jews from the kingdoms of Israel and Judah having first visited the region almost 3,000 years ago. Although Jewish settlement in the Chera kingdom in the modern-day state of Kerala in South India wouldn't really take off until around 600 BC. The St. Thomas Christian community was naturally founded by Thomas of Galilee, who originated in the Roman province of Judea and traveled to India in the year 52 AD. Thomas, who was an Aramaic-speaking Jew, settled into the already well-established community of the Cochin Jews in Kerala and converted a handful of Jews and native Dravidian Malayali-speaking peoples before he was killed in 72 AD. Yet his small congregation remained for hundreds of years. It does, however, seem extremely dubious that all of the 6 million Nasrani, or 18% of Kerala's population, are descended from this small community. The group would receive a large boost in numbers a few hundred years later when Syriac Christian traders and missionaries from the Sassanid or Neo-Persian Empire settled onto the coast of Kerala and were surprised to find a burgeoning, albeit small, Christian group already established there. They integrated into the former Christian people groups and retained their religious practices, which is why the Nasrani are commonly referred to as Syriac Christians, a title which they share with modern Assyrians, Chaldeans, and Aramaeans of Middle Eastern countries like Iraq and Syria, although the Nasrani only speak Aramaic for liturgical purposes and largely speak Malayali as a first language, like their neighboring Mollus of Hindu and Muslim origin. In the 2,000 years since, the Nasrani have divided into dozens of smaller denominations, being mostly split between Orthodox and Catholics, with small Protestant denominations popping up recently as well. Although the Cochin Jews have essentially had their presence erased from the state of Kerala, as over 99% of the community has emigrated to Israel, the Nasrani are still an important factor in politics and culture in the state. Their culture is a unique blend of Malayali, Syriac, Persian, Judean, and most recently a slight Western influence from the British rule in India, with many of the Anglo-Indians, who are half European and half Indian of Kerala, having assimilated into the Nasrani, seeing how they were Christian as well. Although in appearance most St. Thomas Christians are indistinguishable from neighboring Dravidian populations, judging by haplogroup identification, about 8 to 16% of the gene pool of St. Thomas Christians is of Middle Eastern origin, most likely from the area of the Levant, while the bulk of the rest of their DNA is identical to that of the surrounding South Asian Dravidian groups, such as the Malayali or Tamil.
സീറോ മലബാർ സഭയുടെ തലയർ മാർത്തോമായുടെ മക്കൾ ഘോഷിക്കുകയായി ലോകം മുഴുവൻ ഒരു ജനമായി തിരുവചനം. ആർഷഭാരത സംസ്കാരത്തിൽ ഉദയം കൊണ്ടൊരു നവജനത. ഇന്നീ സഭ തൻ മഹിത ചരിത്രം സാന്ദ്രം ശ്രേഷ്ഠം ദീപ്തം. പള്ളികളേഴര തോമാശ്ലീഹ പടുത്തുയർത്തിയതോർക്കാം. വിശ്വാസത്തിന് ദർശനമേകും മാർത്തോമാതൻ സച്ചരിതം. ശ്ലീഹ നാട്ടിയ ശ്രീവാർത്തണലിൽ മുന്നേറും നാം ദൈവജനം. തനിമ വിടാതെ കാത്തീരാം ദൈവിക സൈഹിക സൂക്തം. സത്യം ജീവൻ മാർഗവും ഒരുപോൽ സുതരിൽ നിതരാം കൃപയാകാൻ മിശിഹ നൽകിയ സ്നേഹപ്രഭയിൽ വിശ്വം മുഴുവൻ തെളിയട്ടെ. അജപാലകനായി വാണിയിടട്ടെ തിരുസഭ തലവൻ മാർപ്പാപ്പ. സീറോ മലബാർ സഭയുടെ താതൻ നിരതം നമ്മെ നയിക്കട്ടെ. ജയ ജയ പാരി വിശ്വതയായി സീറോ മലബാർ സഭയെന്നും. ജയ ജയ തോമാശ്ലീഹ ഉന്നത ശിഷ്യൻ. ജയ ജയ പാരിൽ വിശ്രുതയായി സീറോ മലബാർ സഭയെന്നും. ജയ ജയ തോമാശ്ലീഹ ക്രിസ്തു മഹോന്നത